I've always liked building PCs. I love choosing the components, putting everything together, doing cable management, and then lastly, of course, turning it on for the first time to watch that boot screen pop up on a monitor. So when Asus, KFA2, Be Quiet, and Crucial offered to send in some components for me to build a PC with, I got very excited. Now, there's a bunch of videos on YouTube talking about how to build a PC, and they're really good, so I won't do any of that. Instead, I figured we'll just take a look at the components, my thoughts of them, and some benchmarks on the PC. And then in some future videos, I might make some individual reviews of some of the components in this computer. So first of all, let's take a look at the case, which Be Quiet provided among other components. It's called the Dark Base 700, and it's a really great looking case. It's extremely rigid, features tempered glass, a great mounting system for radiators up top, a fan hub, and just an all-around great look. It's extremely quiet and has a really cool RGB strip running along both sides of the case, which by the way can be turned off. Up front, it features two USB ports, the controller for the LED lights, a hard drive activity light which also happens to be the reset switch, a nice and tactile power button, a headphone and a mic jack, and surprisingly a USB 3.1 Type-C port. And next to that is the controller for the fan hub. Overall, I really enjoyed building in it, as everything from mounting components and radiators to cable management has been a pleasure. The only issue I have with it is that I wasn't able to fit a rear exhaust fan because of the radiator blocking it. I also have no idea how to put the PSU cover pieces back on, but that one's probably on me. Spec-wise, it's featuring the new AMD Ryzen 2700 CPU. It has a whopping 8 cores and 16 threads. It's a very versatile CPU in a way, because it'll handle gaming quite well, but it'll also do lots of creative work with ease. So it's really the best CPU for a guy like me, who tends to play some games, but also gets into some more creative stuff like video editing and maybe also some streaming sometimes. In Cinebench and at stock speeds, it manages to get an insane score of 1466. Nice. Cooling the CPU is the really stealthy and industrial looking Be Quiet Silent Loop 280mm all-in-one water cooler. Now, for someone who doesn't like the epilepsy-inducing RGB effects of some coolers, I really enjoyed the more professional look of the Be Quiet Silent Loop. But it doesn't only look good, its cooling performance is beyond what I'd expect. At idle, I'm averaging around 30°C, which is alright, but what's really surprising and cool, pun intended, is that it maxes out at only 45°C while on a synthetic load. Paired to the CPU, we've got probably the best 16GB RAM kit you can get right now. It's a 2x 8GB kit from Corsair, the Vengeance RGB, which is Asus Aura-Sync compatible, more on that later. It's running at an insanely fast 3600MHz speed, which paired to a Ryzen CPU is really good. And of course, it looks badass. Supplying the gaming performance this time around, we've got the KFA2 GeForce GTX 1070 Ti X Sniper White. Now, some people think this card is a weird addition to Nvidia's GTX lineup, and I agree, it is. We've now got a whopping 10 Pascal based gaming cards in the lineup, and it's weird and confusing to people who don't know a whole lot about components. But I'm in no way complaining about getting a 1070 Ti. It's an amazing card, as it'll play any game that I can possibly throw at it at 1440p and at really high settings. I also really like the design of it. It differs a bit from the cards we always see in these kinds of builds. It's refreshing. I haven't really overclocked the card yet, and I don't really plan on it either, as Nvidia's automatic speed boost feature seems to do the job just fine. For my storage, Crucial stepped in and supplied me with a really nice 500GB SATA SSD. I mounted it on the back of the case, and it's been holding up really well. Now, last year I built a PC with a 250GB PCIe based SSD, and it was super fast but also extremely expensive and not really worth it. And what's really interesting here is that I never noticed a big difference in speed between my old PCIe SSD and this SATA Crucial one. I'm sure the speed difference is more noticeable when, for example, transferring big files, but in day-to-day tasks, I have not noticed a difference. So at just $120 for a 500 gig SSD, this Crucial drive is awesome. In terms of our motherboard here, ASUS were nice enough to send in their ROG Crosshair Hero 7. Now this is really an overkill motherboard. I'm not going to talk about every feature that it has because there are so many and it's literally got everything you could think of. But what's really stood out to me so far is its awesome looks, ASUS's Aura Sync making it easy to sync up the RGB of most of my components, and the great stability and BIOS that it offers. I don't think you can find a better X470 motherboard on the market right now. Now for what's powering the build and doing it with ease, we've got the Be Quiet Straight Power 11 with 850 watts of power and a nice 80+ gold efficiency rating. I don't have much to say about it and I haven't really thought of it much after installing it, and with a power supply, that's really good. It means it does the job extremely well. It's quiet, it's modular, and has really nice cables that come in the box. Now I know 850 watts is really overkill for this build, but it means that I can SLI high-end cards in the future, which I might do. So with all this said, I want to thank ASUS for supplying the motherboard, the RAM, and also the CPU, Be Quiet for sponsoring the case, the power supply, and the cooler, Crucial for giving me the awesome 500 gig SSD, and of course, KFA2 for sponsoring me with a really high-end graphics card in these times where GPUs are really expensive. Thanks. So what do you guys think? Is there anything you would change? Did I do a good cable management job? Etc. Let me know in the comment section down below and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.